So 2022 is coming to a close. That means I'm going to give you my picks for the 5 worst movies of 2022. Hi, my name is Nathan. I talk about a bunch of movies on this channel. If you're new here, down below in the comment section, share me your least favorite, the most tedious and dreadful movies of this year. Over on my channel, I have more content like this. Check those out when this video is over. Be sure to subscribe if you've come to the right place. And with that said, let's begin. Kicking off the 5 worst movies of the year is Halloween Ends. This is a very polarizing film in this franchise. Some people absolutely love it, and then there are people like me, because it's on this list, I absolutely do not like it. To me, it just feels like an odd conclusion to this trilogy of Halloween films, because it's just a filler story. You spend a lot of time with this character, Corey, for most of the runtime of this movie, give him his whole backstory, his transformation to a serial killer, and then he dies before the finale. All this time for a character that dies before the finale, and then you get our final showdown between Laurie and Michael that this movie was not setting up at all, and rather the whole trilogy was setting it up. There's lapses in logic, like Michael Myers could kill so many people in Halloween Kills, but can't kill Grandma Laurie Strode in this film. Michael Myers barely appears in this movie. He barely kills anyone in this movie. So it's just really odd the way this movie is. And obviously, I really don't like it. I think the execution just fell flat. And if you tacked on the last 25 minutes of this film onto Halloween Kills, both of those movies are suddenly better. But they decided not to do that. They decided to make it a trilogy. It does not work. I didn't enjoy it. And so that's why it's on this list.
And you blew it!
Number 4 is The Man from Toronto. This movie should be a lot more fun than it actually is. You got Kevin Hart and Woody Harrelson in the leads, 2 A-list actors in an action comedy, and the premise is that their identities are mixed up, and so one has to be an action hero and one has to train him. That's a very interesting premise, but the execution just falls flat.
This isn't messy enough.
A big problem is I didn't care about anything that was happening. The movie didn't do a good job of setting up and paying off things, and so it was just kind of there. It's dreadfully not funny for a comedy, and I just see no reason that I would ever rewatch this movie. It feels like it was the leftovers of a meal that I didn't like very much in the first place. Dishonorable 3rd place goes to Pinocchio 2022 from Robert Zemeckis, a lifeless remake of the 1940s classic that just doesn't have the charm of the original. It removes all of that charm and replaces it with just some really creepy looking visuals here and there that I don't think work. And a big problem here is that I don't think the story of Pinocchio in 1940 translates very well to live action. It doesn't help that I was actually really excited for this movie because it's directed by Robert Zemeckis, who has directed some of my favorites of all time, in particular Back to the Future.
It's Kevin Bacon. He's not a loser. He's great. We don't hate him at all.
But it's just so disappointing, and like many of these live-action Disney remakes, there's no reason to rewatch it when you just are gonna rewatch the original. For me, this one just fell flat, and it did not work for me. Our runner-up for worst of the year is The Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild. This movie feels so cheap. It feels way cheaper than the rest of the franchise ever did. It has a lower budget and smaller in scale because it's a direct-to-streaming movie that was initially planned to be a TV show. Most of the cast is replaced. Only one of our cast returned, Simon Pegg, voices Buck Wild, and everybody else was replaced, which seems like a really odd choice because this is a cheap sequel.
I have a bad feeling about this.
And even in the story, our problem is that the 2 leads in this movie do not work to carry a story. They work as side characters. They're meant to be in the background and not front and center like this. And so it's a disappointing cheap spin-off that in the beginning of the year I was just expecting mid-tier Ice Age spin-off. No, this is a disappointing cheap spin-off from this franchise that put the brand name on there to trick people to watch it. But the worst movie of the year to me goes to Morbius, a hodgepodge, incohesive comic book superhero movie that feels like it was directed by several people sitting in a boardroom not knowing what to do with this movie instead of an actual storyteller, and you could definitely see that in this film. The montages through some of its plot, which is just a really odd choice for a film to make, and it's not set up or paid off as proper as a Marvel comic book movie should be. And of course, you got the infamous post-credit scene with the Vulture that defies all the logic that we know about the Spider-Man universe as well as the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
You disgust me. How can you live with yourself?
It just did not work, and throughout, ever since its release on April Fool's Day, it has been a laughing stock for the entire year, really. And it's just really bad, and it has soured me a little bit on this Venom universe a little bit. And so, to me, this had the most things that bugged me about it. It had very few redeeming qualities, and so for me, it is the worst movie of the year. There you have it. That's my ranking of the worst movies of this year. Down below in the comment section, share your ranking of your least favorite movies of this year over on my channel. I have more content like this. Check those out right now. And be sure to subscribe if you liked those videos. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end. I'll see you in the next one.